What's going on, folks? Ted from Immersion here, and Todd Kenrick recently did an interview with Jeremy Crawford where they talked about Strixhaven. That video was about 13 minutes long, and there's a lot to pick out of it, but there's also a lot that you can kind of just throw to the side. So I've distilled all of that down into the key topics about, one, new information about stuff we're getting in Strixhaven, as well as potentially some things we'll see in the future that were alluded to in the comments that they made back and forth. So I will definitely get into that in just a second here. But at first I wanted to tell you guys a little bit about what's going on with me. So for those of you who don't know, I have a 9-to-5 job, actually more than 9 to 5, but I have a 40-plus hour a week job that I do on top of YouTube. And it is exceptionally stressful right now. I don't want to dive too much into the reasoning why, but there's a big event thing that I've been a part of that happens every couple of years, and it happens to fall on next week. And again, to not dive into it too much, there's a whole team of people that I work with, and I have to rely on them for a lot of it, and it's just all coming together now in the week before it's supposed to happen. And it has been causing me anxiety and stress, and at the latter half of next week, it will all be over and I'll be fine, but it has been sapping my energy constantly. And that's why there's been a slowdown on videos. That's why there's been a little more like YouTube Shorts, because I can bang out a 60-second video real quick and I don't have to like think too much about it. But like, I want to get back and finish my FizzBands coverage. I have a whole list over here on a whiteboard of topics that I want to cover. I have a stack of products. I just got something in from Beetle and Grimm that they want me to review. I have some interviews and stuff coming up. So I'm doing my best to try and still keep things going. But I just wanted to give you guys the heads up that I am just overwhelmed with this right now. And it's sapping my energy constantly. And latter half of next week, it will all be over and I can get back to what I want to do. But until then, I just wanted to apologize. So anyway, let's stop talking about depressing real world stuff and talk more about Strixhaven Curriculum of Chaos. So we know that there were the subclasses that were released in the Unearthed Arcana that were nixed. And as such, they are coming back in the form of feats, and I'll show you this real quick. Again, I'll put a link to this in the description if you would like to watch it. Again, you can just listen to me cut it down for you, though, if you'd rather have that. So basically, they distilled the subclasses. Reminder, there were 5 colleges in Strixhaven. They distilled them down into 5 feats, or actually, 5 backgrounds called the Strixhaven Initiate background. And it's basically one for each college. However, you don't have to, if you choose that background, it gives you a feat. Sorry, the backgrounds for the different colleges gives you a feat called Strixhaven Initiate. And basically, it's similar to Magic Initiate that we have in the player's handbook, but it will basically give you options and spells associated with that particular college. Whatever, like if they have more necrotic, like I think Witherbloom is one of them, and it's got like kind of druidy, naturey, necrotic kind of decay magic, right? So that's what the kind of spells you'd get. And what I thought was interesting is Jeremy Crawford said, people are going to look at this and say, what are you guys doing? You've literally made the most powerful D&D background. This is a background that gives you a feat. And he said, yeah, that's by design. The thought process he had was every Magic the Gathering crossover book has had some sort of extra mechanic, right? So Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica had the guilds, Myth of the Goddesses of Theros had the piety system. This has these new Strixhaven Initiate backgrounds. And as such, they're a little bit more powerful, and that's just sort of what you get if you play in the Magic world. Now, the reason they also made these available as a feat and not just from the background is that if you're playing in the world of Strixhaven and you didn't want to start as a student, you maybe came in later, you could take the feat. So again, the background is something you take before you start adventuring, so you could get these extra magics as part of your background. But again, if your character lived elsewhere and then eventually came to the school but was already doing stuff, you can choose to take the feat like you normally would at an ability score improvement level. He said it will also add a list of spells to your spell list, similar to the guild spells or how the dragon marked races from Eberron, add an extra list of spells to a spellcaster's spell list. And he said that was by design as well, so they wanted to say if you are a spellcaster and you have this initiate, you'll also have all these extra spells added to your spell list, which potentially could add a lot of really interesting options to classes that wouldn't get certain spells normally. He said once you have that, you'll also be eligible for the Strixhaven Mascot feat. So it's a feat tree. So if you have Strixhaven Initiate, that allows you the option to take Strixhaven Mascot. Now, all of the different schools, as they are colleges, college schools, have a mascot for them. You can think, like, Harry Potter houses have, like, a lion and, the snake and the badger and whatnot. They each have their own mascot. Now, I don't know what they are, but the Strixhaven Mascot feat allows you to summon a version of that mascot as a familiar for you to use in the game, but it's more in the lines of a Pact of the Chain Warlock familiar, in that it can attack and do other things. And he also mentioned that it has an ability to allow you to teleport / swap spaces with the mascot. So we'll have to see what it looks like. But again, it's only for that. Now, there's no reason you couldn't allow these feats in your non-Strixhaven campaign, or use these as templates to build your own kind of feats for use in your own homebrew world or Eberron, Forgotten Realms, whatever you want. He also said that there is 1 new spell for each college, so that's a total of 5 new spells added to the game. All of those new spells will be tied to their specific background / initiate feat. So if you are a Witherbloom, if the Witherbloom spell will appear on the Witherbloom initiate spell list. However, they also said those spells were added to other characters or other classes' spell lists. They even said that even the Artificer gets some new spells from these. So out of these 5 spells, we can see them appearing on like Bard and Artificer and others, which is pretty cool. He also said on top of all that, they did invent and add several new magic items. So we'll have new magic items to cover in this book as well. And then it was also briefly touched on the Owlin race. Jeremy Crawford said it will arrive in Strixhaven very similar, if not identical, to the version that we saw in the Unearthed Arcana. So it's very limited changes between the 2 races, which is nice, because I thought the Owl folk, as it was presented there, was pretty good. But he did also say something that I think we could possibly dive into in a future video, that we have seen several things in Unearthed Arcana over the past year where they've been doing these sort of mixed Unearthed Arcanas, which alludes to some of the comments and conversations we've had in the past, that these new mixed Unearthed Arcana have things, it's less playtest in my mind and more hype for the new books. So they'll include a couple of options from, say, they did Wild Beyond the Witchlight, Strixhaven, and something else, once again confirming that the Hobgoblin of the Feywild has not gone away. It will be arriving at some point, seemingly in 2022, in a new book, or in a book. Perhaps, my thoughts are it might be arriving in the Mordenkainen Presents Monsters of the Multiverse, but I could be wrong. But either way, it's coming. So the point was, this was a mixed Unearthed Arcana in that it gave us options coming from 3 books, but that also makes it seem like, once again, they're not playtest. They are just sampling things from new books to kind of give us an early preview and generate hype for where they may show up. But he did also say that there were several things from the past year that also fell into this mixed category, where we might not have seen things fully appear in a book yet, but they were kind of teased for future appearances. So I don't know what that means. I'll have to do some research, but if there's enough material there, that might warrant its own video for us to go in and look and see what we can kind of speculate about. So anyway, thank you all so much for watching, and be sure to stay tuned to Nerd Immersion for more D&D news coverage, and I'll see you all next time.